Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we have a discussion regarding New York and the agenda that this will probably be bringing forward here in most likely year 2. Now, for those of us who have been following, we know that in episode 3, we are going to Coney Island. And from the preview that we saw at E3, they alluded to somebody that we are going to be finding is somebody that we used to call brother. So most likely a fellow division agent that has turned, and everybody knows this, that this is most likely Aaron Keener. Now, in yesterday's State of the Game, I think they playfully dropped a lot of dimes that a lot of people missed. And I can understand everybody is up in arms about the release date of episode 3, but most of us already know what's going on, and when it's ready, they'll put out a release date. I don't know what a release date is, but there are speculations around the community as to what it is. But whenever we get an official announcement, we'll see. There was first the date of the 3rd, and then there are other dates, so everything is up in the air. I'll just, take my time and just, continue farming and prepping till that episode. Also note that episode is not bringing any major changes, because I've also been seeing some misconceptions of people saying, our gear is going to be changing. It's not changing in episode 3. Now, here we are in DC, and we've accomplished the mission that I think we went to DC to accomplish, which is to, revitalize civilization and kind of help fight back all the factions that are trying to take over Washington, DC after this green poison has allowed for the, disorganization of the government structure. And so with that, you see that there's right now almost not a lot of stuff to do currently with the Division 2's lore other than make our way to another city with an agenda. And to be very honest, I think this is an opportunity for them to do what they actually said that they were going to be doing in E3. Julian Garrity came out and said, we actually plan on bringing content to the division for years. He made that statement exactly. You can just go ahead and see the initial, narrative speech that he gave on the E3 stage. And that's exactly what he said. So this is an opportunity for them to actually bring in another city. And if the story writers are really trying to do this, then they can bring in another city from somewhere else. Maybe they can go now. Maybe the division can, take its trip now into another U.S. city. Many people have proposed Chicago, some L.A., some have said, all kinds of, San Fran or whatever it is. Hey, I don't know where people are getting these ideas from, but I think that they're valid ideas that can be explored in terms of expanding the world of the game. But nonetheless, everybody knows that what's really close to home and what's really much dear to the heart of the division community is New York City. And it makes complete sense that we do a full circle back to New York City, and that starts to be a major part of the game currently. Now, I'm saying this, a lot of people have, pushed back and said, well, if they add New York City, this seems like it's going to, give the whole game a huge file size, and it's something that might not be sustainable or something that might not be possible. But then I have to push back and say, if you look at Red Dead Redemption 2, the file size to install that game is absolutely humongous. And currently right now, the Division's file size is around the 40 to 50 gig, threshold. And in adding another map, maybe sections of a different map is not going to, be that much of an issue. And if anything, you had to maybe download episode, maybe year 2 as a whole different platform. I don't think that's also out of the question in order for them to do something really big. Now, it seems crazy, it seems chaotic, but this is why, these companies hire some of the best, technical people that can come up with solutions that can make things like these work. And so in going back to New York, you look at the state of the game yesterday, the developers talked about how the other factions are still living and breathing. I mentioned this in my State of the Game video, but I think what they were alluding to was the New York structures have not necessarily been fully dealt with because all the other factions are all over the place, and even with the way we saw episode 3 trailer, the Black Tusk have somehow shown up in Coney Island and now doing dealings there. And then the George guy also mentioned that even though Colonel Bliss was gone, there was still a vacuum that could be filled by another LMB leader. So what we're probably going to see see is we're probably going to see another, setup of our old factions. Maybe, as crazy as this may sound, even the Black Tusk now trying to find their way into New York City, and we have no reason for that because the developers yesterday were throwing out all these things. I think what they do on purpose is they jokingly drop things and just pretend like, this is done in the most lighthearted way, but is actually very serious. And, sometimes that gets missed in the whole discussion. People miss out on the conversation, but largely, I think if you go back and take a look at this state of the game from the past, the one that was done this week, you'll figure out that there's something much more in the works. And if you take the story and the lore that was proposed saying, okay, New York still seems like viable ground for more gameplay, for more missions, for more of the story to take a turn, then I think there's probably work going on in the background to actually make this a reality in terms of programming and development. And so what would New York look like? Are we going to return to the same New York structure that we had? Now, people have said, just rehashing New York is kind of a lazy way to go. I don't want to argue against that because, yes, that may sound like it's a lazy way to go, but then there are also all kinds of other unexplored areas of the city that wasn't even open from the first map. A lot of people talked about the possibility of, Park Avenue getting opened, maybe more of Brooklyn getting opened. And, these are places that we can actually still get into and continue to explore. And maybe over the course of time, probably work our way into charting the old Manhattan. And this is definitely something that will look good. If you go back and watch the original Division 1 trailer, the trailer actually takes you to I think they're in Brooklyn, and they look at the the bridge to Manhattan, and they said, oh, look, man, it's Manhattan. That's crazy. Maybe we should go there soon. And they're extracting they're extracting something from like the open world. So there's like an extraction going on in the main world. There wasn't really a Dark Zone trailer then. This was like the E3 reveal from like 2013 or 14. And so this was definitely something that, the developers were probably still trying to form the basis of the game. Now, another aspect too that you can definitely tell if you go watch these old Division 1 trailers, and some of you have pointed this out to me in the comment section saying there actually used to be multiple Dark Zones in those trailers, and then the gameplay from the first Division game looks so much like the Division 2 actually. So the assets that were actually used to make the Division 2, I think were kind of recycled after the Division 1 had been made. I think the Division 1, in my opinion, was a scaled down version of what they had shown everybody. And I think that's because of the current, capabilities that they had that time in terms of, maybe consoles, in terms of maybe the capability of PCs that were much more broad and available to everybody. Because if you look at that trailer and you look at our Division 2 currently right now, there's very little difference if you're playing on a high-end PC and you do a side-to-side comparison. The difference though is the environments, the world, the way the lighting engine worked and the cinematic lighting that they used. But largely, you can tell and say, wow, the Division 2 that we have right now and that original Division 1 footage that you have in New York City is basically, in my opinion, from the same paradigm and the same parameters. So I think that there is a New York agenda that's coming for year 2. Just to what extent, I don't know. What kinds of missions, we don't know. If the developers reveal anything to us in the state of the game, I think that's going to shed some more light. So what I think maybe in the next state of the game we can do is we can continue asking questions like, with this New York thing, does this mean this? Does this mean that? And sometimes when you press enough in the chat, one of the things that they do is they kind of drop, extra hints that are much more careful because, sometimes a question might crop up and it may not have been discussed internally saying, can we say this or can we not say this? Just like how Drew, said, what the heck, screw it. There are going to be more hunters coming forth in the Division game. And so when he said that, that's a more broader and less specific way to actually point out that, hey guys, this thing that you're asking for, you're going to see it. In what capacity, in what measure, we're not willing to say right now, but you guys are going to be getting it. So I think all of the work that we've been doing in this community, talking about the Division 1, talking about the way that game actually provided atmosphere, a good story, wonderful environment, and just nostalgia from you guys definitely saying, hey, go ahead and cover Division 1. I just want to say I think all that work has actually come out to be something that, man, it's absolutely worth it to continue to talk about this story. And for those who have not played the Division 1, many of them necessarily haven't seen the benefits of this. And I think they're probably going to start seeing it right now. Now, it's not like anybody has anything against Washington, D.C. It just felt like for it to be a whole new game felt quite tasking. And looking at the Division 1 trailer and the Division 2 right now, I can say maybe there was a reason for having the game that we had then and also this second game that we're probably not going to be able to see. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be doing some investigation and some interpolation. This is definitely going to be fun. Thank you very much for listening to the video and watching. I appreciate you guys' time and audience. Leave comments. Let me hear what you think in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.